Hey guys, this is Fady from Heartbeat Productions and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about the Heritage Audio Super 8. I recently purchased one about a few months ago and I've been looking for some more 1073 hardware pre's in the studio because 1073 is a traditional, everybody uses them. I've used personally several different kinds. I have the Vintech 473, which is 4-channel 1073s with simple EQ on it. I also had the LTD Chandler LTD1, which is the very original 1073, which is absolutely amazing. And then I just recently wanted more 1073, so I got the Heritage Audio. And there's some really cool things about the Heritage Audio that I really like, and I think it's very beneficial. Number one, or basically, that unit has 8 channels of 1073, which is awesome. It's more than enough to track a drum kit. It's more than enough to track stereo channels of like a piano or guitars or something like that. It's plenty of 1073 pre's in one unit, which is amazing. Also, Heritage Audio is a pretty good brand. In their version of the 1073s, so far from what I use, I really like it. Didn't have any problem with it from a quality standpoint. One of the things that make that unit stand out versus other 1073 is they implemented Adat on that unit, which means that unit has its own conversion that converts the analog signal that goes into the unit into an 8-channel digital signal that you can feed it to your interface via Adat. So if you have an audio interface that has Adat input, for example, I used to use it was my Apollo interface. And on my Apollo, I have Adat in. So instead of using 8 line inputs on my Apollo, which takes all of my line inputs on my Apollo, I can actually take one Adat cable from that unit, bring it back to the unit, and make sure that they're both clocked together pretty well using a BNC clocking cable. And choosing, in this case, I like to choose the Apollo to be my master clock, and then this unit to become the slave. And then I now have all my 8 channels of the Apollo plus another 8 channels of the Heritage Audio. So it kind of increases the amount of inputs that I have, which is amazing in terms of adding more inputs to your current setup and not taking away from what you have. And then now I get 8 channels of true 1073s in there. The other thing that I really like about it, because I've used other ADAT units that are pretty cool, but then I personally run into an issue of hardware processing, because I run my chains completely hardware. I don't use any plugins in terms of tracking. So for example, let's say I'm tracking vocals. It's going to channel number 1. If I'm using a simple unit with ADAT, it's not that simple to take that unit, to take the output of that unit and take it into my patch bay, process it, and bring it back for conversion, unless that unit supports insert functions, which the Heritage Audio does, which I absolutely love. I actually use it on every single one of those channels. And then we'll dig here on all the buttons and all the description of the buttons in just a second. But what does that mean? It means that I have channel number 1. I can plug a mic to channel number 1. I can record it. It shows as ADAT number 1 on my interface. Done. Okay, well now I want to process that channel through my Pultec EQ and then my LA2 a compressor, and then I want to pass it through my Neve saturation before it hits my console and my DAW. So the back of the unit has inserts, sends, and returns. So I'll send it to my patch bay, and then the patch bay passes it through whatever sends it, and then sends it back into the unit. And if I click the insert active or inactive, if it's active, that means that signal, before being converted, when it's fully analog, it goes through the patch bay insert, and then it gonna gets all processed, and it comes back, and then it converts into digital into my DAW. Why is that amazing, or why is that an advantage? Is because if I have a lot of hardware processing in my studio, a lot of times using ADAT units makes you not able to do this, but with this unit, you're fully able to do this. Also, if you have a lot of analog inputs and you really like the converters of what you have, you can completely bypass the ADAT. You don't even need to use ADAT at all. You can just literally come line outputs from the unit into line inputs into your interface, and that's all what you need. So my old setup, I use this unit ADAT into, and it's plugged into my Apollo ADAT. Now my new setup in my studio, I use the Antelope Orion 32 Plus, which I have 32 analog inputs, and I love the converters of the Antelope. They sound amazing. So then I actually would rather not use the Adat, and I would rather do the conversion on the Antelope. So I'm not even using the Adat feature at this point. I am sending my I'm sending the heritage. I'm sending the entire Super 8 to my patch bay, so that way I can process these channels, and then they come out of the patch bay and they come back into my Orion hardware for conversion into my DAW, and that's how I kind of process it. So let's take a quick look here on the buttons and the features of all these channels. I'm going to move the camera over here and let's kind of go through it. Okay, so let's start right here. So the first thing is your power, obviously on and off. And then second button right here, it determines your clock. You guys can see I'm running my clock at 48. If you use this unit as an ADAT, then you need to run a BNC cable to the back of this unit and clock it to your interface. And then I'm going to switch this to external clock. Right now, because I don't have it clocked to my interface, if I put it on external, you'll see it's blinking. I'm using the internal clock of that unit at 48 Hertz. Up here is the feature that I was just explaining about the A to D routing, which is basically you take that preamp. Now that preamp, if I'm using ADAT, is going to be basically go straight converted to my ADAT. But if I click this, the send and the return on the back of this unit, it will send it to my patch bay and then receive a signal back from those send and return before it's being converted on my ADAT, which is an amazing unit. Now the rest of the unit is really, really straightforward. You have 8 channel pre's on each one. You have 5 things except the first 2. So start with the simpler one. So channel 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. They all have a low cut, which kind of gets rid of some of the low end. Then you have switching between line inputs and mic inputs, phantom power and phase, and then output. And then obviously you have your mic gain. And just on channel 1 and 2, you have front DI input on both of these, which is really cool. Sometimes I would use like bass guitar through this or my analog synth as well. Also, the low cut that you have, you can determine the frequency for that low cut starting at 20 hertz, and it actually goes all the way to 250. You can cut all the way to 250, which is amazing. Output is still the same, and then phase is still the same, phantom power is still the same, but then you got low Z input, and you have pad, which I believe reduces 20 dB. And you have pad, which lowers the signal significantly. But those are the extra features are only on channel 1 and 2, which is the pad, the low Z input, and being able to control what is the frequency for your low cut all the way up to 250. Aside from this, the unit is really, really straightforward. There's not much else to it. I really, really like it. I know Neve makes one that is the similar idea as this one, the AMS one, and it's a great unit as well. I have one of my friends who uses it, never said any issue about it. The Neve one has one extra feature in it that it could be recognized as an interface, like standalone interface on your computer. And it has like a software to be able to control the gain, has like more digital gain control to it. This one is like a really turn the knobs on and off or up and down to have full control over it. Aside from that, highly recommended. If you want to add 1073, I would say best bang for your buck because you get 8 1073 from this unit, which is a great value for your studio without having to spend a lot of money. If you like this video, if this was helpful for you, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one.